Ladies and gentlemen, just before we start another episode of the Fitzness Academy podcast, if you are listening on YouTube, please be aware that we are now on Spotify. So please head down to the link in the description and check us out on Spotify. On with the episode. People, again, they have this perception that they need to go and do an hour-long Metcon or metabolic conditioning session or a 3-hour-long gym session to be fit and healthy. That is not the case. And nor do I say, you have to be 5% body fat and you need to have guns bigger than my future to be able to do this. No, you don't. Okay, you need to be able to have a stage where you're active, you're exercising daily, you are eating well, and you're having a balance in life, ladies and gents. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Fitzness Academy podcast. This is episode number 25, and I have been wanting to do this episode for a long time now. If you may have noticed, obviously we've done 3 weeks now where we've had a guest on, which of course is fantastic. It's brilliant to hear different stories from different people. You know, obviously from Will to Nye to Joe. Obviously very different stories, but amazing to hear how far they've come from the beginning of their careers or their lives. So this is one that I've been wanting to do for a while. Obviously, I've been away playing cricket, so I wasn't able to actually film this before I went. I was preparing quite a lot. I found out quite late that I was going to go, so I had to sort everything out. But yeah, obviously, it's quite. It was brilliant to go away and prove my worth. That's not trying to be big-headed. It's just a fact that the last time I spoke to you, just me into the camera was. I wasn't actually in the squad. So from going to not being in the squad to playing almost every game and contributing in almost every game was brilliant. But obviously, you know, all good things must come to an end, and we had to finish the tour. Some really good highlights and things that, you know, it was on stream, so I was able to watch back and relive, which was really good. And some positives to take out, you know, for Gibraltar as a whole. So right back on to the episode, though, ladies and gents. This is not Sky Sports News. It's been a long time coming, this episode. I've been wanting to do this episode, but I wanted to make sure that I'd done enough preparation for it because it's a very sensitive subject, which is going to piss off a lot of people. It's going to piss off a lot of people, and it's going to upset some people. It's going to make some people feel probably not worthy if they really go into it, or it might make people come to realization about what that is. So the fitness industry, the good and the bad. Now, this is one of the ones I've actually been looking forward to the most, because there's some things which I am scrolling on Instagram and they come up on the suggestions and I'm like, oh my word. And then there's some things that come up on the suggestions and I'm like, oh, that's really good. You know, so yeah, we're gonna cover 4 different areas. So we're gonna cover the social media good, the social media bad. We're going to cover the in-person good and the in-person bad. Why? Like, James, well, why can't you just cover social media? Well, I think the fitness industry is made up of fitness professionals like personal trainers, strength and conditioning coaches, physiotherapists, chiropractors, osteopaths, whatever you want to call them, or the different types of, or any form of strength coach, power coach, fitness coach. They all fall in the same realm. And then you've got your promoters, you've got your what do you want to call it? Your influencers, influencers or promoters. And obviously you've got your athletes, but obviously the athletes fall under, they can kind of fall under both, more towards the sort of promoter side. Obviously the athlete is obviously their own business, kind of, in a way, because obviously they're promoting themselves and they're showing off all their hard work. So we're not going to delve into the athlete side too much, because that for me is a completely different area for discussion. You know, me being an athlete myself. So that's definitely a thing to take into account. So yeah, the social media good. Let's start us off with that. Now, like I said, I had to do a lot of preparation for this show because I felt that if I miss anything out, I would be absolutely obliterated. So I wanted to make sure that I spent a couple of weeks writing something down on the laptop. I just got a blank Word document open and started writing down what I thought was good about social media. Now, before, if you're listening to this, please don't sort of cast your mind away and be like, oh, James hasn't mentioned something. I may miss one or two things out, but that's obviously what the comment sections are for, guys. Please go into the comment section below. Obviously, be respectful and be kind in that way. Don't slag anyone off, but that's what it's there for, to have an open discussion. Message me if you think you've been affected by this, or you've enjoyed one bit, or give it a share. So yeah, let's start us off. The social media good, because I think the social media in a way gets a really bad rap. People being like, oh, I wish I could take my phone away, or I wish I could not be on social media. I'm going D&D, or I'm going airplane mode for a bit, just to have a bit of time off. Now, this is perfectly fine. I think this is where we'll get into the bad side now, and this is where the bad side comes in, wanting people to take those breaks. But I think social media gets a bad rap because actually some people do make a living off of it. Some people spread a really good message. Some people do actually make social media valuable to some people. So I think that's one really, really important thing to understand, that yes, there are bad things which obviously are highlighted in the press and highlighted in the media. Same media. It's quite weird. It's like a never-ending tunnel. But there's also a lot of good in it. And I'm going to get into those now. So the first point I wrote, which was the easiest thing, was to promote fitness and an active lifestyle. How easy is it to write a post, which obviously I do sometimes, just giving someone a bit of a helping hand, a bit of a tap on the arse, being like, come on, get on with it. That sounds really weird, but some people do need a little bit of motivation to live that fitness. You don't have to be an uber athlete. You don't have to be Usain Bolt. You don't have to be a Greek god or Greek goddess to live an active life. People, and I've said this in previous podcasts, going for a walk with your family is active. That's staying active. And I think people, again, they have this perception that they need to go and do an hour-long Metcon or metabolic conditioning session, or a 3-hour-long gym session to be fit and healthy. That is not the case. And nor do I say, oh, you have to be 5% body fat and you need to have guns bigger than my future to be able to do this. No, you don't. Okay, you need to be able to have a stage where you're active, you're exercising daily, you are eating well, and you're having a balance in life, ladies and gents. Oh my word. Like I said, people going on a walk with their family every day, that's fine. Obviously, it's probably not going to happen. People go to school, people go to work. But on the weekends, going for a long walk with your family, that's exercise. Going to the gym, that's exercise. People going for a swim or a run, again, that's exercise. People saying that they walk about the office for an hour because they need to get up and move, that is not exercise. That is obviously not exercise, and is what we spoke about in how to start your training. I believe that was the podcast that we mentioned it in. But yeah, so social media, going on to how can this be the case? Well, promoting fitness and an active lifestyle is all about sort of understanding the benefits from exercise and an active lifestyle. Limiting the possibility of getting any sort of diseases, of any coronary heart disease, atherosclerosis, preventing sort of, or limiting the chance of getting a heart attack or diabetes, more so type 2, sorry. Obesity, obviously obesity comes in 5 different weight classes, I think, if I'm not mistaken. And obviously it's a bit of a gray area, but the BMI level, being able to sort of stay low on that BMI scale. Yes, obviously it's not accurate if you're quite tall or you're quite well built, but it's there for a reason. And it's there for a reason to do a job. So at the end of the day, I want you to understand that you don't have to, again, be 5% body fat. You don't have to be huge. You don't have to run 100 meters in under 10 seconds. You don't have to swim around Great Britain to be active or in that way. Do what you can to stay active and stay healthy. And that needs to be consistent, though. You can't be like 1 week on, and take a week off and do it. I go on holiday and I still try and find a gym, or I'll go on a hike and things like that to keep active. It's the way the world works. You can't go and do 10K one day and then not exercise 4 days. you can't go and do a really, really heavy gym session and then not go to the gym again for 5 days. It doesn't work like that. And don't get me wrong, we're going to go into sort of the unhealthy side of it in a second, but yeah, this is staying with the good. So yeah, promoting one, putting out a Twitter screenshot like I like to do almost every day. Obviously I'll alternate, like I said, promoting it. I've done one on consuming a lot of water, on diet, exercising daily, things like that to help people understand how beneficial it is to exercise and to lead an active lifestyle, to eat well, but also to have balance. That's one thing which I just mentioned. Have balance. If you are, like I said, going to the gym 7 times a week, not socializing with your family or your friends, going out for the occasional dinner, going out for the occasional drink, that is not balanced. And it's gonna crash and burn. You're gonna crash and burn eventually, and it's gonna crash and burn for a long time. And that's where you start losing the love for exercise. That's when you start to gain weight. That's when you start to have a handful of issues, handful of injuries, maybe potentially as well. So that's one thing to consider. This one thing which I said is really, really important to me personally. More recently, seeing the increased volume of people opening up about their mental health. Now, this is huge because, yes, again, and then there's bad in it. There's people who obviously are taking the mick out of people who suffer from mental health and taking the piss and being on social media. And that's why a lot of people and a lot of footballers and athletes have tend to come off Twitter. And Twitter is obviously a bit more of a more postable platform, if that makes sense, where you can write one word and that one word can really hurt someone. Obviously in different ways. Some people are more thick-skinned than others, but in a way, you never know how that person might react. So that's really, really important to understand that people, when they post about mental health, is going to go one or two ways. It's really going to help, and it's going to help people talk. It's going to help people communicate with their friends and family, or it's just going to lead them down a bigger spiral where they feel pressure to talk when they're not ready to talk yet. I've definitely had times where I didn't want to talk, not because I felt like sort of unmanly or anything like that, but that I needed to think about it before I spoke about it, because then, excuse me, if I said the wrong thing, then that's just wasting people's time. You need to be able to speak openly, but in a positive way, and a way which is going to help. If you sit down and have an argument with someone for an hour, it's not going to make you feel any better. So yeah, understanding that, people like Dr. Alex, helping people with that, posting a lot about his mental health, when he lost his brother, unfortunately, helped a lot of people, and I think he's doing some work, or had a meeting with the Prime Minister recently to discuss these things. So that's one thing which I think social media is really good for, promoting, talking to people, and helplines out there that are going to help people, and obviously hopefully save lives at the end of the day. And yeah, my third point, just awareness in general, awareness about anything. It could be about charities. Cancer Research UK do a hell of a lot on social media to try and encourage people to donate, which is brilliant. Awareness about anything in terms of like sort of awareness to help people sort of check themselves and make sure that they possibly don't end up with late stage stage 4 cancer and things like that, just because of the fact that they check themselves daily. That's one thing which is really important to consider. And yeah, awareness about anything that you think could be important as well, because something which you might not think is important, it may be important to someone else, and vice versa. So that's one thing to consider. Fourth point, it can be a great tool for an individual who wants to learn how to train in a way which works for them as both a coach and a trainer, or an athlete who is attempting to become professional. Let's start with the first one of those, and to learn how to train. Despite what a lot of people who are listening might not think, you don't need to be a strength and conditioning coach or a personal trainer to learn how to train. And that's one thing for you personal trainers and strength and conditioning coaches or physiotherapists out there that are listening. As much as important it is to train your athlete and to tell them what to do, it's important to teach them how to do things as well. You go on holiday for 2 weeks and you're not there to tell them and you haven't taught them how to barbell back squat, and you help them too much in a certain manner, they can't do this well, but they're going to feel that they can't do it without you. So it's important to teach them at the end of the day. And I learned this off, and I've mentioned it before in the podcast about how it's not good for business, but it's almost good if a client leaves after 6 months because it means you've taught them something. So that's one thing to consider. Obviously, there's a lot of things that people are going to be like, James, shut up, mate, you're talking absolute nonsense. But have a little bit of think about it. It's quite good in a way. If they want to leave, obviously, some people find it comfortable will stay. That's naturally how you're going to get it, and you're going to get a new crop of people who are learning how to lift. So yeah, like you don't have to you don't have to go to uni for 4 or 5 years and study how to do things. You can learn, and that's how social media can be that good way of doing it. I like to post about the athletic motor skill competencies, the basic movements, and I'm doing a series on that at the moment. And yeah, got really good reception at the first one. Just learning the basic movements. How can you become a better squatter, a better hinger? But then people are learning that, today I learned that, the athletic motor skill competencies consist of a squat, a bilateral squat, a unilateral squat, a hinge, a push pull. It's these things which social media can be good for. And that's one thing which I've focused on in the last couple of months, is trying to make these posts really engaging, because again, we'll talk about that in a second, but you need to think, as much as I don't like to think about it too much, you need to think about how people are going to look at a post. If a post is black and white, they're far less likely to look at it than if a post is bright. It's got pictures on it. It's got loads of like sort of big bold writing on it. Obviously not loads. You don't want a Bible-sized testament on the page, on the post, but you've got nice big bold lettering and things like that. So it needs to be readable. It needs to be attractive. It needs to be sort of aesthetically pleasing for someone to want to read it, because far more often than not, if you've got like 1,000 followers, maybe 50, 60 are gonna read it probably, and that's on a good day. It's just reality. It's the way things are. Yeah, as well, for sort of a coach and a trainer as well, I think it's a valuable tool to learn how to coach, because if you're an online coach, then you're not going to get any better than promoting yourself on social media, because it's obviously very difficult to talk about word of mouth from someone who's been trained online. They never met you really. So that's one thing. So social media, promoting yourself, testimonials. I try to do a testimonial at least every month to try and show people that people are actually engaging in content. And I'm actually putting one as this. I'm recording this. A post is going to go out today. So that's really, really important to note as well. And yet, for athletes who are attempting to become a professional, if you are trying to get signed by an academy football team or an academy club or an academy in general, whether it's baseball, cricket, rugby, whatever, you are not going to possibly, majority of the time, have the resources to hire a private strength and conditioning coach one-to-one or private physio one-to-one to try and help. You're going to have to spend some time being by yourself and training by yourself. And like I said, if you're not a strength and conditioning coach and you're not a personal trainer, you need to learn how to train. How are you going to know what to train if you're trained by yourself and you don't have these qualifications? It's so like myself, every Monday, like today, I will post a workout of the week, a free workout of the week that people can try if they want to try, and I'll post that twice a week. I'll post that on Monday on a story. I'll post that as a post on Wednesday, so people can get 2 chances to try out the workout. And I always ask, if people want to try another workout, why not? I'll post another one. I'll post 50 workouts. I don't mind, honestly. But people need to know that, that the workouts that they do need to be programmed well. And that's obviously where people like myself and people like other coaches come in, where some people do actually want help. Because, as much as personal trainers and PTs get a bad rap sometimes for, they're too expensive, they're no good, or they don't do it well enough. Well, excuse me. So for example, myself, I don't have any shame in this saying it. I charge, £80 a month for my online coaching, and I think that's perfect, because you think about this: you go out for dinner twice a month, that's £80 minimum. Or I don't know where you're going. It might be even more, it might be even less. But yeah, I think it's accountability thing as well. A lot of people actually come to me saying, "Oh, James, I actually just want to come to you to try and get a bit of accountability. It's not so much about trying to look a certain way. It's about making sure that I stay active and do it that way. And that's one thing which I really love, is the fact that people actually use my services and people use my coaching as a chance to stay accountable for their active lifestyle. If they weren't with me, they would stop. And that's one thing which, again, it's important for me to teach them that I'm not the be all and end all, that I'm not going to be around forever. And they may get to a stage where they might not need me anymore, but I've taught them that accountability is important. So that's one thing which I think social media is good for, promoting the fact that you can actually be of service in a financially cheaper way. If some people go to in-person personal trainers and they go 3 times a week, they'll spend upwards of £400. I don't know how much they charge. I definitely didn't charge £400. They went to this trainer, and that the trainer only trains them for that 1 hour. Whereas if you're online, I check in with clients twice a week, even if it's just hey, how's it going? I've seen you completed all your sessions. Can I be of any assistance? How's it going? And then on the Sunday, I'll have that more in-depth chat, and I'll be like, look, how are you going? How's your diet go? And then obviously at the end of every month, I'll check in, see if they've got any transformation changes. And if not, we'll make adjustments from there. But it's about being that one-to-one side. And that's what I think social media is good for as well, promoting yourself as how can you help them in the best and easiest way possible. So yeah, off on a tangent again, James, bloody hell. But yeah, that point, yeah, obviously not everyone's going to have £1 million in the bank. Not everyone's going to have £100,000. Not everyone's going to have £1,000 in the bank. So it's important to understand that some content which is released for free might help someone actually achieve a goal of becoming a professional athlete, which is amazing to hear. And would be incredibly so I would be incredibly proud as a trainer or as a coach if that happened for me. So yeah, it's a similar thing for very few. On the next point, for very few, it can be a source of income when they have a large following. I've told myself not to get into too much detail on this one, but the influencer role. Not everyone wants to work a 9-to-5 job sat at a desk like this. Obviously, I don't sit 9 to 5. I do a lot of work in the gym. But yeah, not everyone wants to work a 9-to-5 job. It's just not. It's not for everyone. So some people who, and this is going to sound incredibly bad, some people who naturally have a better body type, they've worked incredibly hard to get in better shape. They've had, I don't know, they've taken performance enhancing drugs and they look better. They compete in shows. They use themselves as an athlete as well. If you're a professional athlete, you use your appearance, use your social media platform, use your following to build your own business, and you are your own business to a certain extent. My dad likes to say, as myself, like, I am my own shop window. So that's almost like what we're trying to say here. So yeah, that influencer role, and I think it gets a bad rap for people who are posting diet shakes and fat loss pills. Yes, that for me is when we get into the social media bad, is where things get a bit out of control, and I don't like it, because then they're promoting bad things and they don't even know what they're promoting. Same thing for people who promote things like, I don't know, like again, like excuse me, test boosters and things like that, which they have absolutely no idea what goes into that supplement, about how that supplement can affect different people, because for one person it might be great, for another person it might even kill them. Imagine having that on your conscience as an influencer. So yes, like I said, it gets a bad rap in a way that people have to earn a living. Some people who are sponsored by Gymshark, I don't think gets a bad rap. No, I'm not trying to sort of be biased to the fact that I'm wearing it, but or Alphalete, loads of people look really great. They model for Alphalete. That's not a bad thing. They make a career out of it. Good on them. But then there's, again, going on to the bad side in a second, but I think it's a bad rap, but it gets a bad rap, and then that affects people who are actually doing good. So that's one thing we'll get into. Again, like sort of another way it could be is it could be a release for some people who enjoy posting about their holiday or their hard work in the gym or on the track or whatever. For for some athletes, or for me personally, nothing fills me with more pride than reposting on my story a post about the fact that Gibraltar Cricket won. We beat Hungary in that in that last tour, or that I've just come back from. Nothing filled me with better pride, because it means that all our hard work has come and we've got our win that we wanted to get. So that is a release for us, because we know that the whole of Gibraltar can be proud of the fact that we've actually won a cricket game, which is brilliant. Same thing for the football, same thing for the rugby. Can guarantee that. For the average Joe, or for someone else, it may be a really nice way to be like, look, I've worked really hard for 6 months, and I want to get this really nice picture on holiday. Again, it's so 50-50. I'm on sort of my private account. I wouldn't really like to post a lot about like sort of body and things like that, not because I don't want to, just because of the fact that for me it's not something I need to do. I get sort of my pride and my excitement about seeing the Fitzness Academy logo on one of my athletes' bats, and seeing that come out on a story on Sky Sports, or that's what fills me with pride, or get that release for me, feeling like I've achieved something. But yeah, like for other people it might be, oh, I'm going on holiday and I've worked really hard in the gym. For others, the transformation picture. Bloody hell, I was working in the gym. Excuse me. I was working in the gym the other day, and an old teacher of mine, in year 10. So this must have been, was it 2 years, 6 years ago? Blinking heck. We just thought about that. That's actually quite mad. Yeah. So for 6 years, this guy's lost 40 kilos. 40 kilos, that is unbelievable. That's, to some it may not seem like a lot, but for him it was a gradual process, and I saw him losing weight gradually. I'm like, oh, he's doing really well. And then he came in and I almost didn't recognize it, and he said, oh, it's all about the diet and the exercise, James. I'm like, obviously I knew that, but for him it was a case that whenever I said, oh, what did you do, diet and exercise, obviously there's a bit more into detail like that, but he understood that it wasn't some magic pill. It wasn't some fat loss pill, drink, toothbrush, fat loss pill that you have. Going on a bit of a tangent here again, but that helped him. It was just staying consistent with everything, and he has. So good on him. I don't think he's listening, but if you are, good on you. So yeah, for him, posting that transformation picture from day 1 to day 3, 1,200, whatever it will be, is for him. Is that what gets him released? What shows how proud of it is? And he doesn't even have to post it. This doesn't even fall into social media as well. It could just be having a transformation pic for yourself and putting it on the wall and being like, damn, like, look how far I've come. So that's one thing which is really good. And another thing which I'm gonna sort of finish with this one in the good and start with it in the bad, because this for me is what really is close, because I've had a lot of people who suffered from a lot of like sort of eating disorders, and a lot of friends who have suffered from mental health because of this very point. So sorry, from the next point after this one. So social media, it allows for younger generations to be inspired by the heroes and share their own success. Obviously, share their own success part we've just mentioned, but yeah, blinking out. I can't tell you how many photos I've got on my phone of my cricketing heroes playing unbelievable shot, and I use those of times of inspiration when I may be down, I'm having a bad patch of form, maybe in the bodybuilding world. If I see someone who for me is achievable physique, I'll look up to that and watch his videos and see what he does, because obviously I'm a strength and conditioning coach, but I'm still learning every day. What does he do different? Can I try that? So that's important for me. And then I'm going to lead straight on to another one. So this is social media bad, ladies and gents. Blinking neck, sorry. Oh, bit of a dry throat. Had a glass of water somewhere. It's not here. So yeah. Yeah. So as much as social media can inspire people, it can also become a bad image for them. It can also be a bad way of creating an unachievable, or a sort of setting a standard for here's the point, setting a standard for young individuals, for what a perceived version of healthy looks like, or what is appealing to a large portion of the world. Now, to cut a long story short, that is basically when people are on performance enhancing drugs and they're claiming that they're natural. That's one of the huge things that are on now. Unnatural, is he natural, or blah blah blah. that is huge, because if someone is spreading a bad or someone is clearly on performance enhancing drugs, competing at the top level of professional bodybuilding, there is a high chance that that person is going to be on performance enhancing drugs. Now, nothing wrong with wanting to be a professional bodybuilder, but saying that you're natural just because you want to try and sell a few programs is what can cause a lot of people to go down the wrong path. Now, I can hear I've heard a lot of stories recently and read a lot of stories about how the age of people trying performance enhancing drugs, whether it be in an oral fashion or an injection fashion, is decreasing by the year. Talking about, I think I read a statistic the other day, or sort of like 25% of the sort of younger generation try it are close to 16 years old. And I'm like, oh my word, that is that almost shocks me, because I'm like, how, and that just just because someone they've seen on Instagram is taking it. And that's what I was saying. There gets to a stage where you cannot help but feel worried about how social media affects these people in a bad way. Because how can a 15-year-old be scrolling through social media, be like, oh, mum, I want to try these test boosters or these testosterone pills, which are claiming to make me strong. And then in 4 years' time, that son is no longer there anymore because they've had a heart attack and died. Again, this is not going to happen to everyone, but it's a possibility. Very, very recently we've seen a spat of about 3 or 4 bodybuilders have died in the space of 3 or 4 months because of it. And obviously that's the risk they chose to take, and it's the risk which obviously now they were willing to take, but then obviously the families suffer for that. So just understanding that when someone's promoting a product which you're not sure about, I'm not saying don't buy it, and I'm not saying sort of avoid it, because it may be a really, really good source of CBD is something that's become really, really popular nowadays. When that first came out, people were almost saying, oh, don't get that, it's rubbish, and some people have found real benefits from it. That is, but people read into it, do your research. When you do that, you'll find if it's actually worth it or not. I can't pinpoint and tell you one thing which I think well, I could, but obviously you're going to make the final decision. But my only advice is to read into it, research it, ask some people who have done it before, and then make an informed decision if you want it. Don't do it just because your favorite person on Instagram uses it or it is sponsored by that company. So that's really important for me. And the same thing goes with something like eating disorder, where excuse me. Oh, the cough's going crazy today. Yeah, so models who are extremely thin, you almost see a oh, excuse me, geez, an epidemic of young girls not eating because of the way models look. Now, I had my best friend, or my brother's girlfriend, my best friend's brother, my best friend's girlfriend, who ended up in hospital because she didn't eat because she thought she was fat. And I didn't ask her because obviously at the time I was just wanted to make sure he and her was all right. But I've spoken to her in the past, and she said, "Oh, I see all these models," and she's obviously got a lips done and things like that, which is obviously perfectly fine. But you see all these people who want to sort of be like these models and these sort of unattainable physiques or these unhealthy physiques. That's really important. That's one thing I was discussing with my family the other day, was that a good friend of mine competed in a bodybuilding show, and he's like, oh, he doesn't look healthy. And I'm like, no, he's not healthy. He's not healthy. But what's really important is he understands that he's not healthy, but he knows that for that 45 seconds on stage, he needs to be like that. And then for the rest of the year, he is he's feeling better, he's eating better, and he's training better. So that's one thing. And for models, and it may feel like, oh, I always need to look good, because if I get a bad snap in the paparazzi, my career's going to be over. And I understand why they would feel like that, but in a way, they're not feeling great. Whoever goes to me and says that they're feeling great at 3% body fat is absolutely lying their absolute faces off. There's one person in particular that I know, and not I don't know personally, but he's on social media, and I unfollowed him about a year ago now on purpose because he was posting about ridiculous exercises to try and get you to build muscle and lose fat at the same time, and he almost did it without even thinking about it, and he is at under 5% body fat, and he says he feels great, which is absolute bollocks. He's dehydrated down to the bone. He's like a I don't know, like a dehydrated turtle, and he's all like a dried apricot, and he's trying to pretend that he's feeling great when he's not. It's just the reality of how things are. So that's really important to understand, is that people on social media could perceive to be feeling great and they're not. It happens, but you need to be aware of that, because common sense is an important thing to have, and some people just don't have it and assume that everything's bright and dandy, but half the time they probably don't feel great when they're on stage and they're dehydrated as flip and they're on all sorts of performance enhancing drugs. But yeah, just have a couple of wits about you, and that's the most important thing. Now on to the last couple of points before we move on again. So yeah, that links in with the same point. As much as social media can be a great way of spreading awareness, again, this goes on to what I was saying at the very, very start, I think was my first point. As much as social media can be a great way of spreading awareness about important topics such as physical and mental health, it can equally be a bad way of spreading negative thoughts, emotions, which can be recently seen a lot more in things like sports with racism, homophobia, and things like that. Now, this is going to be a never-ending thing, and I think I watched listened to a podcast of, I think the podcast called On the Judy, and it was with Jamal Lowe, Bournemouth striker, and he was kind of saying how he reckons that racism won't stop until people verify accounts on social media, and I think that's a lot easier said than done. I think people, sort of big sort of social media chains would lose a lot of attraction if they were to do that, because obviously they know they will get found out. But I understand what he means, and I think it's obviously a good idea. But yeah, obviously spreading brilliant awareness about keep going, and encouraging athletes when they probably had bad performance, brilliant. But then calling them really derogatory terms on social media, thinking that they're anonymous and things like that, is what's really, really, really bad about social media. I could literally go onto my phone right now and bring up a tweet about an athlete that I follow, and him calling him a derogatory word, whether that be a racist term or homophobic word or whatever it may be. But that's the way that things have been, and the way that things are going to continue to be for a long time, unfortunately. And it's a thing that could really, really hurt someone without even noticing. Again, some people deal with different ways. Like you said, Jamal Lowe, he said he deleted Twitter, doesn't use it anymore. That's his way of doing it. He's a lot more thick-skinned. So why am I going to listen to what people say? One minute they hate me, one minute they want my shirt the next day. And that's one thing which resonated with me a little bit, and it is the reason why I think a lot of people are sort of going off Twitter, things like that, because it's a little bit more postable. You can literally write one word, that word can be derogatory, post it, and it doesn't get banned or barred or anything like that. So that's one thing which is very, very dangerous, and can be really bad, because obviously then, and it says like spreading bad awareness. I'm not going to get into it because it absolutely drives me nuts, but political things that are happening around the world and people letting it go into things like sport and things like that, it just does my head in. I think one example is that Gibraltar cricket played against Spain a few years ago, and a couple of people in the squad said, I could never play against Spain. I think I would kill them. And I was like, well, have a bit of understanding. The politicians are the politicians, and yes, the way they treat us is terrible sometimes, the way that Spain treats Gibraltar. But I think I'm a firm believer in, until someone does something to you personally, don't take it to heart. If someone says one thing bad about Gibraltar, doesn't mean they're saying something bad about you. Yes, obviously, for me, I care a lot about my country, But at the end of the day, you can't waste your negative energy on people who just don't want to be positive or think that, I think there's a big difference between people who are trying to be snowflakes and people like, oh, positive energy all the time. But you're going to have times where you're upset. You're going to have times where you're down. But I try to be as positive as I can, and I have my bad days. But I never let anyone who's insulted me or called me a bad name or said something negative about me get me down, because why am I going to waste my energy on people who are just not nice? So someone told me to, I think I got in the way of someone's pram by accident walking down the street because I think I might have been on my phone by accident. Yes, I was wrong. I apologized, and they told me to off, and I was like, oh, I told my mum, and mum was like, sorry. And then I was like, well, he said, oh, should we say something? I was like, no, don't waste energy on negative people like that. They in their right mind are obviously having a bad day, and they've told you to F off, and yes, it's bad. It may look across as bad, but why am I going to let my lovely mother, waste her energy on people who don't even deserve her energy? So that's really important for me. And same goes for social media. Try not to respond to people. If it's positive and they say, oh, really good, I get a few messages here and there about how when the podcast first went on Spotify. I got lots of messages saying, oh, really, really good. This episode, really good. That episode, thank you so much. And I had a comment on one of my athletes' announcements, and he said that he had never averaged something above in T20 cricket. And I said, well, and I was like, well, and he hadn't responded to it, which was really sort of impressive about him. And just didn't let it bother him. I was like, do you think I'm gonna let this guy bother me? Absolutely not. So that was one thing which really stood out to me. What's on the next one? So yeah, this one is huge, and this one is what's really, really gets to me. It's unqualified fitness influencers. Like I said, some get a bad rep if they're good, some are good. Unqualified fitness influencers posting dangerous variations which look appealing but can actually do more harm than good. And another post I wrote, which is practicality versus aesthetically appealing content. I'm not even gonna bother putting any examples because it's common sense. Some people squatting the squat rack. Some people standing on a Bosu ball and overhead pressing a bicycle. It sounds really bizarre. I've seen some of those recently. Doing sort of pike sit-ups on a treadmill, and burpees on a treadmill as well. I saw one. It's just never ending, and you're like, what on earth are some people do? And then I'm like, oh well, that is what catches people's eye. And what I alluded to before about how I need to make posts bright, really, really aesthetically pleasing, like to the eye, big bold letters, is what gets people to look at their posts. What gets people to look at their posts? Doing stupid variations, which then they never ever do. They do it for 5 seconds to film that, and they're never going to do it again. That's what I mean. And it frustrates me so much. But all I do is, again, I don't waste my energy. I unfollow those people. I restrict that content, and then I just move on, because I'm not going to waste my energy on people like that. What does worry me and what does take a lot of my energy is me worrying about how many likes or how many followers that person has. Because if someone's liked it or someone followed it or someone shared it, it means that people are engaging and are willing to try it. And it worries me, because someone who's going to try a dangerous exercise, and don't get me wrong, I would rather someone, I don't know, do a plate bicep curl, which again, I don't like, than someone squatting a squat rack, like attaching the bar on the other side and pretending to, because it looks better. Obviously a bicep curl with a plate is, yes, not as effective as probably using a dumbbell, but it's a lot safer than someone squatting a bloody squat rack or overhead pressing a bicycle. It's just the like I said, practicality versus aesthetically appealing content. People, and again, people who are big bodybuilders trying to run on treadmills and putting all this motivational music on in the background, and they all literally run for 10 seconds to get that video, and then they've gone away and done the rest of the gym session. To some people, yes, it gets through to them. They're like, oh yeah, this guy's really big run and things like that. It just doesn't resonate with me, and I can see right through it, to be honest with you. But yeah, Let's move on to the in-person good. Now, I don't think there's it's bad to do online coaching. I do it myself. I think it's really, really good. It's practical. It's a nice way of people to have an endless source of revenue to a certain extent when they want to grow their business. But I really love in-person coaching. And yes, obviously you get to a certain stage where you don't get a certain amount of, you reach the maximum amount that you can earn, which obviously is not ideal. When thinking, oh, you have to pay gym rent and things like that. But yeah, I think it's so good because some person who looks at a video online can't really translate that to actually doing it unless they've got someone telling them, oh, no, just tighten your core, yeah, try and lean forward a bit more, try and lean back a bit more, trying to keep your elbows in, tuck them in. It's a bit difficult to do that when you're online coaching, and obviously they can send you videos and you send them back. But I just prefer it in person. That's why I still work in a professional football setting, because for me, that is what I love to do. I love to help athletes and help athletes in person, influence how they do things online. Yes, we still use online when we work in professional clubs. It's still a thing. Use coaching platforms. You're not going to have endless contact time with the players. They need to go home and rest. But if they want to do an extra gym session, yes, they go online and they get it that way. So that's one thing of doing it. Another thing good, I think, again, accountability. If someone's paid a little bit of extra money and they've paid an extra bit of money on purpose, it's to try and keep them accountable to the way that they want to live. At the end of the day, if someone finds it easier to spend £300 a month and go every single session and keep them accountable, that's what they'll do. If someone's online, they can kind of flog it a bit and say, oh, I was feeling well that day or whatever. So yeah, again, excuse me, blinking. I'm so sorry, ladies and gents, about this cough, by the way. But yeah, moving on to the bad, because I think the good's kind of been covered there. Yeah, I think as a motivator as well, I think some people get way too overboard and start slapping people and things like that. That's just way too overboard. But yeah, the in-person bad. And this kind of links in with the social media bad, because it kind of links into trainers looking at dangerous variations and trying to do it with amateur or people who haven't got that training history and trying to progress them way too quickly. I see it very often with personal trainers trying to make their in-person clients do like clean and jerks, and they can barely do a deadlift. But because the exercise looks better and they think that it's going to help them quicker, then that's what they do. And then I'm like, oh my God, teach them how to do a deadlift and then crack on to do a clean and jerk in 6 months' time. That's perfectly fine. But it frustrates me when I see these things, people trying to make a 150 kilo person do a burpee. It just doesn't work. It just does not work like that. So if you're a trainer, you're a personal trainer, or you're a coach, just have a second thought about which exercises you're programming. If you are rushed in the morning and you haven't planned your session, that's on you. That you failed to prepare, you prepared to fail. And when you have to think about exercise on the spot, that is your fault. Be prepared for your sessions. Have it planned in advance so you know that your client or each and every one of your client is progressing slowly. If you say, oh, well, James, it's really difficult to program for 12 different clients, that's your job as a coach and as a trainer to build those individual plans. If I go on my online coaching right now, none of my, I don't know how many I've got, I think 12 or 15 clients are doing the same program. Even if they're doing a bodybuilding centric training where they want to build muscle and strength, each of them differ based on what they do in the day. My elder brother Nicholas, who I train as well, has a very manual job. So I tend to try and put as many leg days as possible by themselves so he can have that energy throughout the middle of the week to do his job as a chef, as a professional chef. So that's what I try to do. Or I try to mix it up and go 5 days a week, one leg day, one lower body movement on each day. So he feels that the next day he can actually walk. And then vice versa for someone who can blinking. I'm getting angry. It's not over the laptop for people listening on Spotify. But yeah, so for people who I sit down at a desk and do that, I can hammer their legs on one specific day. If I want to do push pull legs rest, push pull legs rest, that's one thing that I can do. So yeah, that's one thing. Be individualized with your training, and that goes across online or in person as well. So yeah, and again, like just poor training etiquette as well. people, it's nothing wrong with people having a chat in between sets, but don't let people. Oh, and I see some experienced trainers doing this, and it really worries me. Because obviously, just because you're experienced doesn't mean that you're a good coach or a good trainer. People talking to their clients mid-set, and you're like, oh my God, how are you focusing on the technique if they're doing so? Even if it's the simplest exercise in the world, they still need to think about doing that exercise right. So don't distract people from doing it. Wait until they finish their set, have a chat, have a little gander, do whatever you want to do, and move on. So yeah. And that's pretty much it, ladies and gents. That's pretty much it for what this podcast is about. It's nearly been an hour, but this was the chat that I really wanted to do to try and highlight the fitness industry, the good and the bad. So on that note, make sure what you look at on social media is right. Follow the good people. Make sure you look into those individuals and the product that you might want to buy, or the product that is being promoted. If it's useless, bin it and forget about it. And if it may be useful, look into it, research it, ask people who have tried it, and then give it a go yourself. You never know. So, and then in person, if you are choosing an online coach or an in-person coach, check out what they've done. Check out testimonials. If they've probably not posted too many testimonials, like sort of if they post one testimonial a year, probably not the best person to go to. But again, obviously, I'm not trying to bring myself up, but I like to think that over the course of the last couple of years, I've not perfected. I've improved a hell of a lot as a coach. I've made mistakes, but I've definitely improved a hell of a lot. So again, if you require any services in terms of getting stronger, fitter, faster, if you want to improve the way you look, obviously you don't have to improve the way you look. If you want to feel better about yourself, then please obviously do send us an email, or obviously the email will be in the description, or a message on any social media platform, and I can see if I can help you out in any way whatsoever. But for that, ladies and gents, thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Fitzness Academy podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. Have you listening to the podcast? And I cannot wait for you to listen to some of the episodes coming up in the future. It's going to be absolutely unbelievable. So thank you so much, agents, for listening. If you have listened to the end, thank you very much. Obviously, for me as a podcaster, it's important to look about how long people are listening for, and to see that people are listening towards the very end of the podcast. It's unbelievable. People listening towards the low end of the up end of 95% of the podcast. So that's brilliant. So thank you very much for that. Please also, if you thought this podcast helped you or could be helpful for someone else, please do give it a share on both on Spotify and on YouTube. Obviously, you can share on both, so please do that. Please also leave a like and a comment. It helps an absolute hell of a lot. And obviously, hit the subscribe button and join this incredible family that we're building. So thank you very much, ladies and gents. I'll see you next week for another episode of the Fitzness Academy podcast. Next week at some point. Obviously, some podcasts have been going out a little bit later just because of the fact that timings of work, and I've come back to Gibraltar and starting work straight away. So thank you very much for listening again, guys, and have a great week. Take care.